Welcome, welcome, welcome everyone to this interview, this powerful conversation with two very beautiful hearts and souls. Welcome to Nyasha and Reuben. Thank you so much for taking time to be here with us today. Have a very powerful, important conversation. I've met these two beautiful people. We're trying to figure out, I think on Instagram, the Ascension Seed is their Instagram name, and was completely blown away by the work that you've been guided to do at this time. And I ended up joining your program, this Racism Reveal to Heal, and absolutely been deeply, deeply moved by your work. So I'm very, very, very happy and honored to have you here to have this conversation. Very important and much needed conversation today. So welcome, first of all. Very heartfelt welcome to you both. So I'd like to take a moment just to introduce, for anyone who don't know you, to introduce you today. So Nyasha and Reuben are a twin flame couple who work together as the Ascension Seed, spreading healing, unity consciousness, and soul activation through online courses, sound transmissions, retreats, and ceremonies. They are currently channeling their energy into collective racial healing for all humans through their 3-week online racial healing course, Racism Reveal to Heal, which offers a deep and lovingly held container for racial shadow work to expand consciousness around race and racism. Nyasha and Reuben are passionate about supporting humanity to create oneness in all dimensions by dismantling oppressive structures internally and externally. They offer their work in service to love and collective liberation from all forms of separation. Wow. Thank you. Amazing. Such powerful work. And I can truly say, having been following you guys and working with you, you truly do that. You truly create a really safe container for this powerful work, which can be deeply uncomfortable and very confronting. So thank you. Thank you
so much.
So let's start, let's go back in time a little bit, because you haven't always done this work, right? I would love to find out just a little bit about what brought you both to this work at this time. Just a little bit about you and your journey, as much as you feel to share with us today, so we have a sense of where you've come from and how you got to do the work you do today.
So thank you so much, Lara, and hello to everyone who's tuning in and watching this. We're so grateful to be here with all of you today. So yeah, we are Nyasha and Reuben. We go by the Ascension Seed, and we've been working together for almost 2 years now. It's our 2-year anniversary of the Ascension Seed next month. And yeah, it's been an amazing journey. Before we were doing racial healing work, we were just doing kind of intuitive healing work, really whatever spirit asked us to create in service to collective healing and the manifestation of oneness in this dimension. And that work really came from our individual work, that we both done separately before we met. We actually only met around 2 years ago as well, and we started working together like a month after meeting.
Yeah, very quickly.
Yeah.
Wow.
But before that, we've both been on our own healing journeys, diving deep into self-love and connecting to creation, to God and source, and finding our own personal connection to the universe, and working with universal laws, and just really working through family trauma and limiting beliefs and a lot of the distortion and condition layers that block us from embracing our purpose and stepping into our true soul power. So yeah, we'd both in our own ways been kind of doing the same work, and there definitely had been like a kind of coherence in both of our journeys, because we are so connected on a soul level. Even before we met, we were still very much in tune in a way without knowing it. So we both had acceleration at the same time in our paths, and especially just before we met, we both went into a period of really deep shadow work, and really kind of catalyzing our own path and aligning with higher timelines, and learning a lot, like so much new downloads and consciousness coming through both of our channels. So when we met, it was really like, wow, like meeting ourselves. Like it was a very unique experience. It felt like a bit of a glitch in the matrix, because we were like, the day we met, we were watching each other speak, and it was like oh my God, like, is that me? Like, I can feel myself coming through this other person.
It wasn't just like, oh, this person's like me, this sort of things to me. It was like listening to like some of the thoughts that go on in your head being reflected to you. So all of the shadow work we started to uncover and things we started realizing we had to start working through, it was like we couldn't actually hide from this anymore. It was like confront with you in the face. It was almost like the universe was like, oh, so you want to uncover that stuff, now you're going to be held accountable for that. So it was so radical for both of us to actually feel that reflection within each other, because it catalyzed our paths to being increasingly more embodied in the things that we started to integrate and start to understand. So it was very powerful. It was nothing like we'd ever experienced before, and we weren't looking for a relationship in that time of our lives as well, as we started realizing it was more about self-acceptance and self-love. So that was part of the beginning of our relationship together.
I had already been like doing one-to-one healing, and I'd started to embrace my path, as a vessel for transmitting healing and in my own way, but I still had ego blocks, and I was still scared, but I'd started to really lean in. And then I really got ready to I was ready to embrace my next level at the time when I met Reuben, and he'd been doing that but not so consciously as well. And then when we came together, there was this vortex opened up. It was such a powerful field, because it was our own energy, but just amplified within another self. So we were just like, wow, this is such a powerful energy, and there was so much consciousness swimming in our field, and there was so much love, and we just felt that this energy needed to be shared, and that we were meant to work together to spread this energy. And so we started to offer ceremonies. We started to hold spaces for people to come and connect to themselves and to connect to God and to remember with us. And we started to share the things we'd uncovered on our journey, and also birth new consciousness and open our channels in service to God and to love. And we held in about 3 months, we held like a retreat. We did like loads of events, loads of ceremonies, and
as much as we could.
It was really powerful. And then we went to India for 5 months, and that's when we conceived our baby. So it kind of, it's been non-stop, our journey. I was reflecting yesterday, I was like, wow, it's just like, since we met, just, there's no space in between where we're like, okay, now we're reflecting, we're here. It's just like the next thing, and Spirit's always calling us higher and to a new level of growth. And racism revealed to heal, and this year has really been a whole nother level for us. We really were called to embrace a lot of our kind of scarcity blocks, and really connect to ourselves as channels for divine abundance and divine prosperity, and understand how we can really work through the blocks that we have in those areas to be of higher service and to maximize our impact. And so all of that work has been tied in, and also with work around authenticity and really owning all the different parts of ourselves and our values and the things that are important to us, and the consciousness that we have, really sharing it without fear of how anyone else might receive it. And so just when around the time George Floyd was murdered, and just a little bit before, we were doing some of this work around authenticity, and so we started to share more about our views around the white supremacist structures of the world, and racism and race-based oppression, and which we hadn't done so much actually. I think we very in very small ways we'd done before, and we realized there was a bit of a block there, that part of us being kept offline, even though it was here,
a big part of our lives.
We weren't sharing it. So we started to share more about that, and then everything happened, and then so it felt very easy for us to keep sharing. And we were in the middle of birthing another program, and obviously we went through a big collective shift, so our frequency is changing, and then we were like, oh, that other program doesn't feel quite aligned right now.
What's going on?
And then I just was offering it to Spirit, and was just open to receive what how we were meant to be of service to this new kind of movement that was happening. And then I got the download that there's some offering that wants to come through, and it's it had 3 spaces. That's what came through at first. It's like there's a space for people carrying white privilege, and a space for people of color, and then there's a unified space. And then I kind of fell into it, and it started to kind of become clear and expand, and it ended up becoming Revealed to Heal, and it's been such a powerful offering. We've been able to reach more people with our frequency through this offering than anything that we've done before, so it's been a real expansion for us as well, and it's been such an honor to be able to bring new people to our work and share the love and the codes that we have, and the way that we move into healing work, and also the multidimensional intersectional way we feel healing and unity work needs to take place. And yeah, so that's been a blessing and just beautiful and part of our journey, and it feels like this is the work we were always meant to do, but we haven't planned to do it. I mean, we don't really plan our work that much in that way because we're super intuitively led, and so we have things in our field, in our vortex, that we're aware might want to be birthed or are probably going to be birthed eventually, but not yet. Sometimes like, yeah, that's coming, but now isn't the time to focus our energy there. And with racial healing and racism work, that wasn't something that had really tuned into a lot in terms of like what would that actually be as an offering. But I did have, before I had my spiritual awakening, I had like I call it a racial awakening, you know. I really came to kind of meet myself within my body as, you know, I met my brown skin and what it means to be brown, and I really started to learn loads, like hugely expanded my consciousness around white supremacy and race-based oppression and racial trauma and intergenerational trauma around race and all of these things that everyone's been talking about. I dived into it, and I was around a whole community of black and brown activists and artists of colour who were kind of, they were conscious, very conscious in this area. They were kind of social activists and artists, but they weren't necessarily as spiritually conscious, you know, in the ways that the world that I'm in now so much. So I had that big awakening, and I remember going into that process and going through my own personal process with it, and eventually coming to a space of feeling that there's something missing, that there's still a sense of us and them, and that there was a sense of shaming sometimes and quite often towards white people and distancing from whiteness and white people, and you know, it wasn't done with love. And I realized that a lot of the people were actually recreating the same oppressive structure and the same separation based on race without realizing or without meaning to, yeah. Because that's where they were at in their own healing journey. They kind of needed to be there, but I knew that there was another step, that like if we want to actually, you know, eradicate this harm, there needs to be unity. And you know, I really remember I got at the time a download of racism is just as harmful to white people as it is to black and brown people. And actually for me it was it's even more harmful, you know, that what I realized in that time in my own consciousness is that, you know, I would rather be in a brown body than a white body, and be like, in terms of like, I'd rather be conscious of racism in a brown body than be a white person who's unconsciously harming, you know, other people because of their complicity, because of their ignorance, because of their lack of accountability and awareness of the reality of white supremacy and how it benefits them, and how they're also playing their part in it, and how they're carrying it within them. So for me, it's really harmful to be carrying that in your body and not knowing it, and unconsciously then being part of upholding a system of harm, and in small and big ways, you know, perpetuating harm towards others who are in, you know, different bodies, based on these constructs of race and the separation that exists as a result of it. So I had that spiritual download come through, and then not long after I had a spiritual awakening, and I really went away from kind of all the race consciousness and the people that I'd been around. I really moved into a different realm and was vibrating in a different frequency, and started doing a lot of inner healing work that wasn't to do with race, and was, I think, kind of a distancing from politics and social issues in a way, which is a symptom of, you know, the same ignorance within spiritual communities that many people have had, which has led a lot of people to not talk about racism and not talk about these issues. And so in part that's also why I silenced myself a little bit on these issues. You know, they were still my truth. I still, you know, resonated with these things, but I just didn't talk about them. You know, I didn't feel that there was space for them, because ultimately the community, the spiritual, you know, communities I was in, and what I could see, you know, there wasn't space in there, you know. So I knew that there was a merging, and then I started to, around the time, again, before George Floyd, when we started to step into our truth more, I started to magnetize these other people that are people of color, and also white people, that are merging spirituality and understandings of social justice and activism. And so I was like, yes, this is our frequency too, like, and it gave me that permission slip to feel like we can claim and be authentic in that this is our truth, and we can honor that, and we can move into that space and know this is actually very necessary, and this is, like, you know, very, very important. And so yeah, and in a way I always felt that some of the downloads that I got around unity and how that relates to racial healing, and the perspective on racism as an oppression for all that I'd accessed, I felt that was going to be very valuable. I was meant to be within myself. I was meant to marry this spiritual perspective and this understanding of racism. And so I'd said that a few times. I'd said that to Reuben. I said that to Reuben's mum. I had an awareness that there was something there, but I never further than that. I was just like, I knew that I had this awakening, and I realized this perspective, and I meant to bridge those. But I wasn't thinking when I said that about like, what am I going to do to bridge them? That was just there in my consciousness. And then when this all happened in divine timing, it became clear. And then now it's like, oh, of course God always had this plan. Like, that's why I had that specific race awakening, and then a very spiritual awakening that was divorced from race, and then, you know, everything aligns and they come together, and then this offering was born. And I didn't have to learn any of this stuff. It was already there from all of the different pieces of my past. So it's another beautiful way of seeing, you know, the poetry of the universe and of God and the plan, the divine plan, and really realizing that this is part of the work that God wants us to do, you know, and it's part of the new earth medicine that we're here to bring through. And so that's really humbling and beautiful. And you just never know what's you know, God has planned. But when you listen to that calling, you always be of service in the highest and best way. And you know, what God wants for you is often far greater and will have far you know, greater impact than what you might want from yourself, because we're still operating from our small mind and from our limited perspective and from our often ego-based desires of who we think we want to be and what, you know. And it's not to say you can't play with your desires and also explore in those realms, but always with a sense of surrendering to something greater and something higher, and asking to be shown, and just trusting that, you know, what God wants for you is always the right thing, even though that often feels like out of the comfort zone. And like when this first came through, it was like, wow, we're really gonna do this? Like, and for Reuben especially, he hadn't gone as much into like his own work around race stuff, so he was like, oh, can I do this? And it was bringing out stuff for him, and he's been able to learn so much. And of course, we were meant to hold this journey together, and it's been perfect, and we both knew everything we needed to know, because really so much of it is from the heart, and the knowledge and the consciousness around race is definitely a big part of it, and we're really glad we've had access to that. But the thing that really underpins this offering and why it's been received in the way it has for so many, I think, is just the love and compassion that we pour into it, and the sense of like, you know, we might be in brown bodies, but like we are also you in those bodies, and like, you know, this is all of our work, and like, let's love each other as we do this, and let's move into it with love, because no one learns from shame, and like separation isn't the answer, and it's not the medicine here. Unity is, you know, not to bypass into unity, but to hold the frequency of unity as we do the work to peel back the layers of separation. So yeah, that's quite a lot, but that's hopefully that gives a sense of the journey of the course and our work. And yeah,
it's gorgeous, so gorgeous. And you really do embody everything you say. I mean, I've experienced it, and it's absolutely gorgeous. So what would you say is the thing that really motivates you to do this work? Like, what do you see for us as human beings, for humanity, as what's available to us, you know, that new earth medicine? I wonder if we could go a bit visionary for a minute. Like, what do you guys feel is like the benefits, and if you will, of doing this work? What do you think is here for us if we have the courage to really do this deep inner work?
Well, the very name that we've given the course, you know, racial healing in itself is we're hoping that humanity, well, we're not even hoping, we're putting it out there to the universe that, of course, that we are beyond our skin. We know this as well on a deeper level. You know, we are more than just our physical vessel. So we want people to be able to heal through their conditioning of the labels that they're given. And yeah, just allow that energy to spread out as much as possible, so people can have a more expanded awareness of the reality that of racism that's happening in the world, and can be advocates for actually spreading integrated unity, energy and frequency and understanding. And it's such a tricky place of finding that, you know, understanding that unity from the highest perspective, and then, like you're saying, bridging it with the earthly experience. That to us is the goal of this work, is to really have people work through that distortion, no matter what body you're you're birthed into, to see past that distortion, so we can meet these conversations with more understanding, more compassion of the, you know, of our reflections, experiences when we're having these conversations, and coming away from the space of of separation and blame and pain that comes up, you know, honoring that pain as it needs to come through, but not allowing it to override your experience, so we actually cannot heal, because it's such a fine line with this work. It can get very, very confusing, and it feels really icky in the body, because it's so deep rooted and so buried into our subconscious that you know, like all shadow work, you have to start becoming comfortable feeling uncomfortable and going into those places. But our aims and our hopes and our desires for this work is really for everybody who participates in the course to have a more integrated understanding of the racial structure of this world, how that has a part to play in society, and how they can personally do their own racial healing to be an advocate for racial healing.
So, I mean, I'd say, like, in terms of the vision of what is possible, like the highest timeline, like, I'm tuning into a world where, you know, all people, whatever skin they're in, are using the power and the codes that they hold within their specific skin, based on their ancestral lines, based on, you know, the current structures that exist. And understanding your positioning within the current structures, and then using the power that is you know, embedded within the skin that you have to play your part in the redistribution of power and the kind of reclamation within the people that who are holding less power currently on a surface level because of their skin. So I'm seeing, you know, like, people in white bodies really en masse, like, moving towards, with their energy, with their resources, with their time, with their love, supporting people of color in the ways that people of color want and need. So it's this real sense of, like, I'm here to serve and learn from you as we come into unity, as we come together, you know. And that's what will really allow us the safety needed for the forgiveness that is part of the healing process for people in black and brown bodies and for people of colour. There needs to be this sense of, you know, acknowledgement and honouring, and also, like, you know, sort of taking a back seat and, like, you know, not giving away your power, but it's giving back the power that has been, you know, kind of over accumulated almost, you know, from a kind of a distorted space within, you know, whiteness as a construct, and therefore on white bodies, right? So ultimately, like, on an energetic level, you know, obviously everyone has infinite power within, but within this dimension, because of the race-based constructs which, you know, distribute power in unequal ways, white skin has an over accumulation of power, which is ultimately it's the energy of power which has been kind of siphoned away from a lot of black and brown bodies. So there needs to be a kind of shedding of some of this power that isn't, you know, that doesn't belong to, you know, white people, you know, the power that has been siphoned, and then giving that. So it's like, how can I give power to their voices? How can I give power to their expression? How can I redistribute you know, the overaccumulation of wealth that I'm likely to have and have access to? How can I understand what is actually necessary for people, black and brown people in brown bodies, to elevate into their highest expression? And so this is something that I was speaking about yesterday with Reuben, about abundance and, you know, money. And there's so much work, you know, around abundance and claiming our power as infinite creators. But for black and brown people, there is a different aspect to the work. It's not just exactly the same, because there are different barriers, you know, because of the structures of the world we live in. And so money is a currency which has so much power and can be directed for so much good and with so much beauty, and so there's a real redistribution of wealth, but also not just in a sense of, like, white people giving money to black and brown people, but white people who have money and power and also access to the kind of the keys of the universe around how to create that within yourself, really, you know, going out of their way to support black and brown people and people of color in creating wealth and understanding how to work those systems within their own field, so they can create lasting intergenerational wealth. Because there's this sense of intergenerational poverty which goes deeper than just money, but this underlies a lot of the other problems that, you know, people of color face in a white supremacist system, you know. So like, you know, they'll feel oppression around like their capacity to be physically healthy, to access education and resources to support them in manifesting their soul's purpose, right? Like there's loads of black and brown people in the world with huge gifts to share, and their capacity to really extend that energy is limited because of the power structures that exist around money and around like the way our economies work, and also obviously the power that's distributed in the hands of white people that kind of often are pretty much the people that are holding, like running the reins of this dimension internationally, you know. So there's this real sense of like a need for leaders who are, you know, non-white to come up, and white people really just doing all they can, and I say we because like I don't feel a sense of us and them. That's often even in Reveal to Heal, when we were in the race consciousness workshop for white people, I was saying we, and that's just what comes naturally and feels natural to me, because like I'm feeling the we for all of us, you know. But yeah, so then in the process of that, we're creating a space where we can do the inner work and the outer work. So we're doing the inner clearing to open our hearts and to really feel ourselves as each other, and we're creating a much more integrated world where people aren't living in segregated communities of, you know, white people and then non-white people, and everyone has friends of all races, and people do, you know, have children with people of lots of different races. You don't just have children like, you know, which is most people actually only often have children with people that are like them. So our sense of our desire is decolonized, so we can truly be attracted to people on a soul level. Our friendships are decolonized, so we're not just, our friendship circles aren't just with people who look like us, you know. Our client bases are not just people who look like us, you know. The people that read and receive our work, institutions, you know, are diverse. So we'd really be calling in a real kind of sense of global multiculturalness. So it no longer is the kind of the like, it's not outside the norm to have a diverse workplace or a diverse, you know, organization or a diverse area. Like diversity, which is our natural state of being, is what becomes you know, how we live, right? And so all of these barriers to kind of moving around the earth as well, which exist because of white supremacist, you know, structures, and oppressive structures and capitalist structures, which all, you know, are intertwined as these forms of oppression that limit our sovereignty and our freedom, they would also be collapsed, right? And so everyone can move across the earth, and people can return to their ancestral lands, and also other people can live in different places, you know, that aren't theirs, but they can feel like this place is mine. And there's definitely a real sense of white people returning the lands that have been colonized and exploited to the indigenous people of those lands. And then in that process, the indigenous people there may also be accepting of, you know, the kind of the accountability and the apologies of those white people, and giving them, you know, loving permission to stay, and together then they are guarding the lands in union as, you know, this new humanity, where it's not just a sense of the white people rob the land from the indigenous and it goes back to the indigenous. It's a sense of that is what happened. There's been accountability and reparation. And now we are here together. How do we create a more unified world which is respectful of the past and which is honouring the wounds and is economically and in all dimensions, you know, giving reparation and healing to the imbalances and the oppression and all of that that needs to take place for us to move forward. And then also accepting that now, because of all of these structures, people from different places live all over the world. And yes, you know, for example, America was started by, you know, British colonists, but lots of white people now live there, so they live there too, and it's not like all white people have to leave America. So there'll need to be a way for us to find, you know, peace and love and unity within this new earth. So the new earth understands the wounding of the past, it understands what went wrong, understands how we got here. It's fully accountable to what is necessary to heal that, to redistribute power and health and wealth and spiritual, you know, knowledge and spiritual opportunity to those that have been denied access to their own spiritual truth because they're so bogged down in the oppression they face in this dimension due to all of these structures of oppression and inequality. So everyone has a chance to claim their own connection to God and the time and space to go into that. And this is something that comes up a lot with the spiritual community. So often spiritual communities are white, and that's because white people have more privilege, more resources, more time to invest, and they also don't have the same scarcity beliefs around investing. Yes, white people have scarcity beliefs too, but scarcity for people of color, it goes, deeper on a whole nother level, right? Poverty consciousness is embedded with, white supremacist coding, and the world you see around and the way that power is distributed relates to the way you feel your own power and your capacity to claim your power within a world that has such imbalanced structures. So those are just some of the ways. But I love that question, tuning into the vision is really exciting, and it feels amazing to tune into that. And I think it's so fundamental that we do this work, because we have to tune into what we want to create, and how can we also push that vision, and what's wanting to come through, and what would it look like to create, and how do we create a multi-dimensional integrated new earth, which isn't just a spiritual illusion of we're in 5D, but it's like bringing all of the people in all of the realms, into alignment with that vision.
Yes.
Okay.
We're gonna have to pause because Nyasha forgot our shopping's arrived from Waitrose.
Thank you for that brief pause, that brief introduction. So that brief break, welcome back. So we've been having some very powerful shares of, what's possible with this work. And also you've been giving us some good examples of also what we have to face and move through. And I feel like this is what really scares people, is the deep shadow work, or the unconscious stuff that might come up. It's like I think human beings have a tendency to unconsciously avoid the deep work. They want to be like kind of, I don't see it, I don't feel it, I want to kind of keep going life as usual. And I'm wondering, so I see this work as, when people are willing to do real deep shadow work and have the courage to dive deep into the self. I'm wondering, I'd like to sort of help people to feel a bit motivated to do this work. Like, I've found it been so hugely beneficial, painful, right? Uncomfortable, yes, but so beneficial to do this work. And actually, maybe I'll just start by sharing one of my experiences, which was that I've been teaching about abundance and manifestation work for a long time now, and healing work. And I've always talked about abundance blocks and what stops us from manifesting, what stops us from creating, and what stops us from being separated from our power. And when I started to really understand more about white supremacy, it was like the biggest light bulb went off in my head, which is like, this is the ultimate abundance block. This issue of racism, actually, as you're saying, it affects everybody. And even, with white privilege, it still really separates me from my true power, right? It keeps me in lack, it keeps me in scarcity, it keeps me in not enough, it keeps me chasing my tail, it keeps me feeling like I'm not enough, and that keeps us kind of, I think, going into consumerism, and keeps feeding into that capitalist society that ultimately no one benefits from, right? So there's been many realizations that's one. I was like, oh my God, this is the ultimate abundance block. That's actually destroying all of life fundamentally. So when I got that, it was like I could get over my ego, or over understand this is so much deeper, right? This is so much deeper and requires some courage. So I'm wondering, I guess, when someone's sitting, hovering on the sidelines, maybe feeling scared to enter into this work, wondering if you have any sort of words, or words of advice, or soothing words that can help people to feel safer or more okay to enter into the power of this work. What would you say with that question?
Wow. I would say, for someone who is feeling uncomfortable about coming into a space which is designed to bring up uncomfortability, I would say that, you'll feel so liberated afterwards. You will feel so liberated afterwards by going through such an experience, because some of that baggage which you are unconsciously carrying, and some of it which consciously you will be carrying but choose to ignore, you will feel such a sense of deeper understanding and connectedness to to the world, to our planet, our Earth, where we're living now, and our home, because you'll understand some more of those deeper wounds that are embedded in our bodies, and have been living in our bodies for a very, very, very long time. It's incredibly liberating to work through racial conditioning, and that's one thing which really blew us away in the course, was by assisting people to go into these uncomfortable places, but with that understanding of acceptance and compassion, and not coming from that space of like of judgment. Yeah, of course, accountability, and giving you the opportunity to look into yourself and highlight places where you may have been perpetuating these structures, and unconsciously, playing out in the world in that way, where you can be creating so much harm without you even realizing. We were just blown away by how everyone in the space could really receive the energy of expansion and liberation. Liberation is really the word that's coming to me now, because until the whole idea of like oneness, and we're all connected, and the multidimensional nature of the universe, that is so true, but on such on a very high perspective, and we really are just going to be in an illusion and a state of spiritual bypassing and illusionary bliss if we don't really acknowledge these deep-rooted distortions that are here within Earth. And it's just if you are feeling uncomfortable going into this process, just know that is a sign for you also to go into that wound. If it wasn't there, you wouldn't be feeling it. And if you are, and if there's something to be worked through there if it's coming to the surface, and you're probably more ready than you realize. You're probably much more ready than you realize, and even if you're here at this point, you'll definitely be, there'll be something within you that will be holding you to this work, and it's a beautiful process, honestly, because as I mean, for all people, for people who in white bodies, the uncomfortability will be more of being seen, being accountable, and having to acknowledge some of the things you've been carrying. But for people with darker skin, it will be more the things of, I don't want white people to heal, or I've been oppressed, so why should I make space for white people to heal, or they won't really understand because they haven't their lived experience. These things that manifest in our reality this is how racism works. It keeps you separate from other people who have different they look physically different to you. So this space we've created is really a safe space for you to come and work through those layers and hear other people's experiences, no matter what skin they're living in, and that is incredibly powerful. That really is. That's interracial healing. That is us really coming into a space of unity and listening and holding other people and learning about their experiences. That's the only way that unity can actually manifest here on Earth, is when we take everybody's experiences as our own, and we don't shame them or tell them that's their victim mentality, or that's something they need to work through, or that's the thing that's weighing them down. We can't learn through shame. It really doesn't work. In some ways it presses it down even more. It can make it even harder to access. So that is something that you will receive in this space. You will feel that sense of, I'm being held to do this work, and I'm not being judged, but I'm also being given the tools to help me go into these spaces, so I can be I can be a way shower for all the people in my life, and meet these uncomfortable conversations with confidence, and feel like I actually have something I can say here, and I understand where I fit in this structure. That's really something that will benefit you a lot, because we sometimes don't know, where do we even go with these conversations? How are people going to perceive us? All the things that come up. Just know that through this course, through being open to so many different experiences, and learning about your unconscious racial shadow, you really do feel an incredible sense of liberation and understanding, which is integral to unity and oneness, if that is something which you would like to achieve.
Gorgeous, fantastic answer. And I found the work personally, I found a greater sense of connection, not only within myself and my own body, but with other people and the earth. Like, it's really done something profound to me, the work I've done so far, and it's still relatively very early days, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so I think, and this is what I found with shadow work in general, when we have the courage to go in, there are great benefits. It's just, we have to have the courage to go into the darkness and face discomfort and just trust that something beautiful will come out of it. And then maybe then we know what, you know, what action to take, what you can actually do about it, right? You know, you have to shift your own stuff to get that that clarity. So I'd love to tell people, so those people who are feeling, if you stayed to this point of the conversation, I'd love you to share a little bit more about Racism Revealed to Heal. You've told us, you know, a bit about it already, but let's just look at some of the practicals. So the next offering starts on August the 24th. It's a 3-week online course. And I think it's very reasonably priced, by the way, as well. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that? Because about how the pricing works and the sponsorship and all of that?
Yeah. So we really felt when this offering came through that it was a way to also give reparations, which is a process that we're collectively still quite in resistance to. So the way that we structured it is that people that are non-black, so white people carrying white privilege, and non-black people of color, they are really blessed by the opportunity to part of their investment in the course is towards sponsoring a black person to participate free of charge. And so yeah, this is a way of supporting a black person to heal from racism, whilst you're also doing your own inner racial deconditioning and racial healing. So yeah, it's really amazing because, you know, we were able to give loads of free spaces away, and the more, you know, white people carrying white privilege and non-black people of color that join the course at full price, you know, the more black people get to experience it for free. And so it's 333 in order to pay for yourself to participate and to pay 50% towards a black person participating, and you can also just opt to sponsor a black person without participating yourself if you don't feel you have capacity right now, or maybe you don't have the financial means, but still a way for you to give reparations and support a black person through going through this incredibly powerful experience, so you can fully or half sponsor them as well. So those are the 3 options. And yeah, that feels like a really beautiful energy, and lots of people who joined last time really loved that about it. And it's a way to give a very deep experience, you know, rather than just donating to organizations, which is great as well. This is a way to give to a person specifically that will really have a lasting change on a fundamental level. And so that's so beautiful. And if you have a black person in your life that might want to go through this experience, you can also opt to, you know, buy them a space specifically, you know, which is really nice. Or if you and a friend join and together, you know, give a space to someone you know. So this is a really amazing thing for anyone to do if you have any black friends or clients, or even if, for example, if you're in an interracial couple, you know, and you're carrying white privilege, you can, you know, give your partner a space, things like that. We really encourage those things too. And so the course, like you say, is 3 weeks. The first week is focused on revealing. So we're going into, you know, our internalized racism, our racial shadow, the ways we can unconsciously perpetuate racial harm. And we have 2 live race consciousness workshops, which are so powerful, where we just channel loads of new consciousness around, you know, how we can work with the body we're in and the power within our own skin to activate our race consciousness, and also, you know, vibrate the frequency of racial healing through the way we're showing up in the world. And every day you also get daily allyship actions, so small and, you know, like short-term and long-term, small and larger ways that you can show up in this dimension to support this collective process of racial healing. We also share daily resources that you can read that we've hand selected, so videos or articles. So there's a process of learning, and there's also a process of journaling every day. You know, quite often we send prompts for journaling, for introspection, and there's lots of meditations as well. And there's, throughout the process, there's like embodiment rituals and prayers, and there's movement. We've really seeded so much into it. And so the second week is more about healing. If you want to speak to that.
So the second week is us going into the aspects of us that need to heal from racial sickness and how that's manifested in our body. So we go much more into starting to tend to some of those wounds that have been uncovered in the first week through revealing and coming to the surface and the ickiness that we were talking about, and we start to tune into how we can start to heal that for ourselves and then spread that out in the world. And we do lots of healing practices. We have different meditations that we send out every day, different practices you can do in your own space to really go into these places.
And we have 2 live healing spaces in the second week as well. And so at first, both of the live sessions in the first 2 weeks are in separate groups for people that are white and white passing, and for people of colour. And this is to allow safety, more so for the people of colour, but also for white people that might be fearing shame or not knowing how to show up in a space with people of colour with their current level of consciousness in these areas. So it's a safe space for learning and expanding, within our own experience. And then in the final week, we move into unified spaces, and this was some of the most powerful work that we've ever facilitated, and definitely some of the highlight of the course, where we had this amazing interactive unity healing ceremony. The different groups of people, gave healing to each other and witnessed each other. There's this amazing validation and offering of support and love, and oh my god, it was just like a taste of the future.
It was so powerful. After going into our individual experiences, then coming into a unified space was so beautiful. We could tell that there was no the spiritual bypassing aspect of unity. It wouldn't have resonated with the space because we had already gone into those other parts previously in the past few weeks, and that was so powerful to just really to just feel everyone being held, and the level of understanding and compassion was truly incredible. It felt very moving to everybody involved. To us, it was way beyond what we could have imagined. It really is beyond us, this work. It was just incredibly powerful. It really felt like a tangible way for us to heal some of these wounds, and understand each other's lived experience. It seemed like there was no other way to go to that space, if we hadn't have done the previous work. It was incredibly powerful, so powerful.
And at the end, we have a live unity healing celebration to bring in some of that joy and really give thanks for all of the deep work that took place in the container, and to sort of really thank ourselves and love on ourselves. And that's another big part of the process, especially in week 2, like loads of self-love. Like we do a lot of different self-love rituals to really reclaim your own skin, whatever the color of your skin, and to like really cultivate a relationship of adoration and devotion with the skin. So that's just so beautiful. And another big piece of week 2 that we forgot to mention was ancestral healing and ancestral reclamation. So that came through intuitively in the last course, and we have a whole day which is all about connecting to your ancestral medicine, your ancestral roots, and really understanding that the specific codes of your own skin and your own genetic line, and how they are purposed for you to fulfill your purpose in this life, right? So that's a really big part of moving away from the dynamics of kind of cultural appropriation and cultural exploitation, and into like each of us owning the codes that we've incarnated into through the skin color we're carrying on the DNA, and claiming them and using them in the now moment to really write new narratives of love and unity. So that was it. Loads of people found that really powerful, especially white people, who often have a sense of cultural emptiness, and kind of they connect to spiritual lineages and traditions that are often from the global south, from people of color, and they don't have a sense of their own lineage, so that's another amazing part, that you'll be able to connect to your ancestors more, and you'll also be able to do healing for your ancestors. And we had people saying that they never felt so connected to their ancestors as they have through this process. And what we've just shared with you, that's just a taste of it. We're trying to it's beyond words. This is a multi-dimensional journey, and we give you loads of different practices to work with all the different levels of your being. So there's energy work, there's physical healing, there's consciousness expansion, there's also practical stuff. It's such a big journey. It's so vast, and it just works for you on all levels. And it's just really life-changing and transformative, and it goes so much deeper than just racism or anti-racism as well, because the skin we're in and race is like our so linked to identity and also our purpose. We've really chosen the skin we're in for a specific reason, so that we can serve our purpose. So yeah, this will just, it will redirect you, you know, it will create a foundation for your life moving forward, so you can move into service from a place of integrated, multi-dimensional understanding of what unity really means. And so you can really be someone that embodies this frequency of racial healing, as part of your lifelong intention to spread love and to be of service to sort of spiritual awakening on earth, and the creation of a new earth, which is based on a foundation of true unity, which is multi-dimensional and is integrated. So yeah, I mean, you can read the course page and you can read the amazing testimonials from those that participated last time, and it says it all, you know. I'm sure you can already feel it, and if you're feeling the call in your body, like, just listen and trust that, you know, you're meant to be with us, and this will just, it will be such a powerful experience for anyone who says yes. So we really encourage you to follow the call, give yourself the gift of racial healing, even if you don't quite know why you need it, but you feel it, then listen to that, and give a black person, you know, a chance to heal as well, and that will feel amazing for you too. So yeah, I think that's what we'd like to share on the course.
Amazing. Give yourself a gift of racial healing. That is pretty powerful. That is beautiful. Thank you so much, you guys. It's amazing work. And just I'll put the link to the page, how to sign up, within this video, but it's the Ascension Seeds .clickfunnels.com is the website, and I'll put the link to your Instagram, to your Facebook, the Ascension Seed. Thank you so much from the depth of my heart and soul for the work, for saying yes to your path and purpose. It's such powerful and such beautiful work, and thank you once again for making it a really safe space to do this work and making it accessible to everyone. I deeply thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. We've loved speaking to you.
This has been amazing. It's been so beautiful. Thank you to you and your heart and your energy for holding this space and inviting us in, and for this sacred co-creation. You know, you really brought through so many amazing codes in your questions and your energy. So we're really grateful, and thank you. Just so grateful to be connected to you, and so much love.
You too. So much love to you guys.
Oh, many blessings.